Hi, I'm Jamel Guenioui and I work for Surrey Wildlife Trust Ecology Services. Welcome to Thundry Meadows. Thundry Meadows is one of our wetland reserves and it's located between the market towns of Farnham and the village of Elstead in Surrey, and it lies along the northern edge of the River Wey. The site is approximately 12 hectares in size, and for the size of the site it has quite a few different habitats here. The site was bought in 1981 by Surrey Wildlife Trust with help from the WWF and Natural England. It harbours a Quaking mire habitat, some areas of wet and dry grassland and wet woodland. It's also home to many notable plant species. It has over 20 species of dragonfly. 4 of our native reptiles live here, and also birds live here such as the kingfisher, the cormorant, the water rail and the barn owl. Thundry Meadows used to form part of a local farm, and potatoes were grown here during the war, and it was also coppiced informally in some of the woodland areas. One of the main features here at Thundry Meadows is the River Wey, that snakes its way through the habitat. And rivers are very dynamic features of the landscape, and here, where it meanders across the landscape, there's a lot of erosion. We've actually lost a lot of the reserve due to those erosive forces of the water, and we have actually taken measures in the past to try and slow that erosion down and re-establish plants along the edge, providing a buffer so that the river can move along without affecting the landscape. One of the most common species that you'll see in these wetland habitats, in these wet grasslands and the wet woodland behind, is the alder. So this is the alder tree. Alder is a monoecious species, so that means it's got male and female parts on the same plant, and it has a bit of a superpower. Alder can grow in areas that other species can't grow, so in quite barren areas, and it also has a special relationship with a bacterium that lives in the roots. So what happens is the bacterium is able to absorb nitrogen from the air and provide it to the alder and the surrounding soils, and in return the alder provides the bacterium with sugars that it generates through photosynthesis. So due to this mutually beneficial relationship, alder is a pioneering species, and it improves the fertility of the soils around it, paving the way for other plants to grow. The alder can be identified by its tennis racket shaped leaves, and in the winter by its buds, which are often purple in colour and look a little bit like a boxing glove. In May 1940, after only several weeks of fighting, the Allied forces were being defeated by the Nazis in Europe, and at that point in time a German invasion on the mainland seemed inevitable. Much of southern England was actually transformed at that point, and defence lines were set up across the south to protect London and in the industrial heart of the country. This pillbox here is one of those defence areas, and these were used to accommodate light machine guns and rifles. And then between these you've got a bunch of ditch systems that were used or dug up to provide anti-tank obstacles. We're standing in some wet alder woodland, also known as aldercar, and down here we've got a very unassuming plant which is on the SSSI citation for the site, so it's one of the notable plant species. Okay, so it's known as golden saxifrage, and it's a lover of wet habitat, so it grows in very marshy conditions, quite close to rivers and streams, and is often found in wet woodland. So these wet woodland habitats are at risk of invasion from some non-native species. So this here is Himalayan balsam, and if allowed to persist, this will actually take over a woodland area and create a monoculture, shading out all of our native plant species. So Surrey Wildlife Trust spend a lot of time with volunteers removing balsam from riverside habitats and wet woodland areas to enable our native species to flourish. So one of the management tools we have here at Thundry Meadows is to use our livestock or belted Galloway cows to graze the areas of wet and dry grassland to create a mosaic of structure, and which benefits many different plant species. And here we have species such as devil's bit scabious and petty winggrass and Dyer's greenweed which all benefit from that grazing regime. So right now I'm on the Quaking mire, the rare Quaking mire habitat that we have here at Thundry Meadows, and there are species here that are found nowhere else. We've got plant species such as marsh cinquefoil, bog bean. There are many bryophytes, so your mosses and liverworts that are found here, and some of those are quite notable for the county. All of these species provide humidity and habitat for many types of wildlife, especially invertebrates. And what they're also really good at is actually soaking up water close to river habitats and retaining that water and stopping the flow of rainwater into rivers and streams, which cause flash flooding. Before I described it as a Quaking mire, you can actually see the ground is quite unstable here. And what it is, it's a mat of vegetation over liquid peat. So there's lots of moisture beneath me, and if I was not careful, I could actually sink quite quickly into this stuff. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this tour of Thundry Meadows during Rivers Week. It takes a lot of resources to manage sites like this, and they don't run by themselves. Surrey Wildlife Trust and its volunteers are hard at work managing these habitats and keeping them alive for many species of wildlife, and for many this is a last refuge for them. So if you'd like to get involved with the Trust, you can come out and help manage sites like this. And if you want to keep in touch with what we're doing across the county, you can do that by becoming a member. Please do get out and explore your local wild places. The more we learn and understand about these habitats, the more likely we all are to protect them.